Walk up to the Arc de Triomphe on any sunny afternoon. Stand underneath its massive arch. Look up at the stone walls. You'll see names carved into the surface. Hundreds and hundreds of names, 660 names to be exact. Every single one is a general. Every single one commanded armies. Every single one rode horses while other men walked. Every single one slept in houses while other men slept in mud. Not one private, not one sergeant. Not one regular soldier who carried a gun and marched until his feet bled. This is the dark story of the Arc de Triomphe, the dark story of who gets remembered, the dark story of whose name matters, the dark story of glory itself, because here's what most tourists don't know when they take their photos. Here's what the history books skip over. Here's what makes this monument different from every war memorial built since. The Arc de Triomphe is a monument to inequality, built by one man's ego, carved with the names of the powerful, standing silent about the 500,000 French soldiers who died to make those generals famous. Paris, 1806. Napoleon Bonaparte has just crushed the Austrian and Russian armies at a place called Austerlitz. The battle lasted one day, December 2, 1805. Napoleon calls it his greatest victory. His soldiers call it the day they stopped counting bodies. 9,000 French soldiers died at Austerlitz. 27,000 enemy soldiers died. The snow turned red. The ice on the lakes broke under the weight of drowning men. Napoleon watched from a hill, and 4 months later, on February 18, 1806, he signs a decree. "Build me an arch," he says. "Make it the biggest arch in the world. Put it in the center of Paris. Make it so big that whole armies can march through it." He wants glory. He wants his name to last forever. He wants something bigger than the Roman arches he studied as a boy, bigger than the Arch of Titus, bigger than the Arch of Constantine. He wants tourists 1,000 years from now to look up and remember Napoleon. But here's what he doesn't say in that decree. Here's what gets added later, after his engineers start working. Here's what turns a victory arch into something darker. Put names on it. Carve names into the stone. Make a list of every general who ever served me. Every commander. Every officer who led men into battle. Just the generals, though. Just the men who gave orders, not the men who followed them. The Arc de Triomphe takes 30 years to build. Napoleon orders it in 1806. Workers finish it in 1836. Napoleon himself never sees it completed. He dies in 1821, exiled on an island, dreaming of Paris. But his monument gets built anyway, because empires need monuments, because power needs symbols, because the winners need stone proof that they won. And in 1836, on July 29, King Louis Philippe, the man ruling France after Napoleon's empire collapsed, organizes a ceremony. He dedicates the Arc de Triomphe. He invites generals and politicians and rich people. He gives speeches about French glory. The monument cost 9,300,000 francs. That's about $60 million in today's money. $60 million for an arch, for carved stone, for names, 660 names of generals, 0 names of regular soldiers. Think about that for a second. Think about what it means when a monument to war only remembers the men who commanded it, when glory belongs only to officers, when the thousands of teenagers who died in mud don't even get their initials carved in stone. This gets fixed, sort of, in 1920. After World War I kills 1.4 million French soldiers, after 4 years of trenches and gas attacks and machine guns. After a whole generation dies and France realizes that maybe, just maybe, regular soldiers deserve remembering too. So they bury an unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe. One body, no name. Just a French soldier, could be anyone. Could be the boy from Paris or the farmer from Provence or the teacher from Lyon. They light an eternal flame over his grave. Every evening at 6:30 p.m., veterans relight it. Every single day since 1923, through World War II, through occupations and liberations, through presidents and protests, the flame keeps burning. One unknown soldier, one nameless grave. One tiny correction to 660 generals. But here's the question nobody asks at the Arc de Triomphe. Here's what tourists miss while they're taking selfies. Here's what makes this monument matter in 2026. Why do we remember generals? Why do their names get carved in stone while regular soldiers stay forgotten? Why does glory flow upward? Why does history belong to commanders? And bigger question, are we still doing this? Are we still building monuments that celebrate power instead of sacrifice? Are we still carving the names of CEOs and presidents and generals while the regular people who did the actual work stay invisible? Stand under that arch today. Look up at those 660 names. Ask yourself, who deserves to be remembered? Who gets to be history? Whose story matters? Because the Arc de Triomphe isn't just about Napoleon. It isn't just about French generals from 200 years ago. It's about how we choose to remember war, how we choose to measure glory, how we choose who counts. This is that story. The dark story of the monument that forgot the soldiers. The dark story of whose names matter. The dark story of an arch that celebrates commanders and ignores the commanded. Let's start at the beginning. The dark story of one man's dream, December 2, 1805. The sun rises over a place called Austerlitz in what's now the Czech Republic. Napoleon Bonaparte wakes up at 4 a.m. in a farmhouse. He's 36 years old. Emperor of France for exactly 1 year. Commander of 73,000 soldiers. Across the battlefield, 85,000 Russian and Austrian soldiers wait in the cold. They think they have Napoleon trapped. They think the French army is weak and tired. They think this will be an easy victory. They're wrong. The battle starts at 8 a.m. By 2 p.m. it's over. Napoleon wins, completely. The Allied army collapses. Soldiers run, officers surrender. Thousands die trying to escape across frozen lakes. Napoleon's cannons break the ice. Men drown in freezing water. Napoleon stands on Pratzen Heights, the hill that controls the battlefield. He watches his victory. He watches enemy soldiers run. He watches and he starts planning. Not planning the next battle, planning his monument. See, Napoleon understands something about power. Power isn't just about winning. It's about making sure everyone remembers you won. It's about building things that last longer than you do. It's about turning battles into stories, stories into legends, legends into stone. He thinks about the Roman emperors he studied as a boy. Julius Caesar, Augustus, Trajan, they all built arches, victory arches, giant stone structures that armies marched through, monuments that said, I conquered, I won, I matter. Napoleon wants that, wants it desperately, wants tourists 1,000 years from now to walk through Paris and see his name, see his victories, see proof that he was great. So on February 18, 1806, just 11 weeks after Austerlitz, he signs the decree. The emperor orders, he writes, that an Arc de Triomphe be built. He wants it at the Place de l'Étoile, the Star Square. The place where 12 roads come together like spokes on a wheel. The center of everything. Make it huge, he tells his architects. Make it Roman. Make it impossible to ignore. He picks 2 architects, Jean-François Chalgrin and Jean-Arnaud Raymond. Chalgrin is 59 years old, famous. He designed churches and palaces. He knows stone, knows structure, knows how to build things that last. Napoleon tells him. Make it 164 feet tall. Make it 148 feet wide. Make the arch opening 96 feet high. Make it so big that armies can march through. Make it so big that people feel small standing under it. Chalgrin starts drawing. He studies Roman arches. The Arch of Titus in Rome, built in 82 AD. The Arch of Constantine, built in 315 AD. He measures them, sketches them, then makes his arch bigger, because Napoleon doesn't want to copy Rome. He wants to beat Rome. Wants to prove that France is greater than any empire that came before. The design gets approved in March 1806. Chalgrin shows Napoleon detailed drawings. Napoleon loves them, orders construction to start immediately. But here's where the dark story begins. Here's where Napoleon's vision turns into something else. Here's where glory becomes selective. Napoleon wants names on the arch, wants to commemorate his victories, wants to honor the military. So he tells Chalgrin, make a list, put it on the stone, carve it so deep it lasts forever. What list? Chalgrin asks. Generals, Napoleon says. Every general who served in my armies, every commander who led troops into battle, every officer who helped me conquer Europe. Just generals, not regular soldiers, not the men who actually fought, not the teenagers from farms who carried guns and died in mud. No, just generals. Nobody argues with Napoleon. You don't argue with the Emperor of France. You don't argue with the man who just won the greatest battle of his life. You don't argue with the person paying for a $60 million monument. So Chalgrin starts the list. He writes down names, marshals, generals, commanders, officers, men who rode horses, men who lived in houses, men who ate real food and slept in beds and survived battles by being far from the fighting. The list grows, 20 names, 50 names, 100 names. It keeps growing because Napoleon keeps fighting, keeps conquering, keeps appointing new generals. By the time the monument finishes, there will be 660 names, 660 generals. But in 1806, when construction starts, Napoleon doesn't know he'll lose, doesn't know his empire will collapse, doesn't know he'll die alone on an island, doesn't know that future generations will look at his arch and ask uncomfortable questions. He only knows this. He wants to be remembered, wants his name attached to something permanent, wants glory carved in stone. And he wants that glory to belong to the right people, the important people, the people who gave orders instead of following them, the people whose names mattered. The dark story of the Arc de Triomphe starts here. In one man's vision of who deserves remembering, in one man's decision about whose sacrifice counts, in one man's monument to military hierarchy. August 15, 1806, Napoleon's 37th birthday. The first stone of the Arc de Triomphe gets laid. Workers dig the foundation, 40 feet deep into Paris dirt. They pour concrete, they stack stones. They start building a monument that will forget most of the men who made Napoleon's victories possible. The dark story of who built the glory, the foundation, takes 2 years. 2 full years just to dig the hole and fill it with stone. Because the Arc de Triomphe isn't just big above ground, it's massive below ground too. Workers dig down 40 feet. That's as deep as a 4-story building. They hit water at 20 feet. Paris sits on top of underground rivers and old quarries. The ground is soft, unstable, perfect for collapsing. Chief Engineer Chalgrin hires miners, real miners from the coal regions, men who know how to dig in darkness, men who know how to shore up tunnels, men who work for 2 francs a day. That's about $13 in today's money. $13 to risk your life underground. They work in shifts, 24 hours a day. One team digs while another sleeps. They use hand tools, shovels, pickaxes. Their hands bleed, their backs break. Several die when tunnels collapse. Their names don't get recorded, not in official documents, not in the building records, not anywhere. Just worker died Tuesday in the foreman's log. Meanwhile, Napoleon conquers more countries, defeats Prussia at Jena in 1806, defeats Russia at Friedland in 1807, adds more generals to his list, more names to carve, more glory to celebrate. But back in Paris, the Arc de Triomphe grows slowly, so slowly it drives Napoleon crazy. He visits the construction site in 1810, sees the foundation barely finished, sees workers moving at normal human speed, gets angry. Work faster, he commands. I want this done before I die. But you can't rush stone. Can't rush architecture. Can't rush something this big. The workers know this. The architects know this. Only Napoleon doesn't. By 1810, the foundation is solid, but the arch itself barely exists. Just 20 feet of stone walls. Just the beginning. The project needs different workers now. Not miners, stone carvers, skilled craftsmen who know how to cut limestone blocks, who know how to fit pieces together without mortar, who know how to carve. These workers make better money. 5 francs a day, about $32 today. Still not much, but enough to feed a family, enough to rent a room, enough to survive. They come from all over France. From Burgundy, where the best limestone quarries exist. From Provence, where men have been carving stone since Roman times. From small villages where fathers teach sons the trade. Claude Rémy is one of them. He's 41 years old in 1810, a sculptor, one of the best in France. He gets hired to carve the reliefs, the big dramatic scenes that will cover the arch, battles, victories, Napoleon's greatest moments turned into stone pictures. Rémy makes 300 francs a month, about $1,900 today. Good money for 1810, but he earns it. He works 12-hour days, climbs scaffolding, chisels limestone, creates art 50 feet above the ground. His team includes 20 assistants, younger sculptors, apprentices, men learning the trade. They make 3 francs a day. They do the rough work, the heavy cutting, the preliminary shaping. Rémy comes in and adds the details, the faces, the expressions, the beauty. None of their names go on the monument, not Rémy's, not his assistants, not the dozens of sculptors who spend years carving stone. They make the glory. They create the monument, but they don't get remembered, just generals, just the 660 names. The limestone comes from Saint-Leu-d'Esserent, a quarry 40 miles north of Paris. Workers cut blocks underground. Giant blocks, some weigh 3 tons. 3 tons of stone that has to be cut, lifted, loaded, transported. The quarry workers make 1.5 francs a day, about $10 today. $10 to cut stone in darkness. To breathe rock dust, to risk getting crushed when blocks fall. 17 workers die in the Saint-Leu quarries between 1806 and 1836. Crushed by falling stone, suffocated by bad air, killed by accidents that happen when you rush, because Napoleon wants his monument fast, wants it done, wants it perfect. The stone blocks travel to Paris by boat, down the Oise River, into the Seine, 40 miles of river transport. Slow boats pulled by horses walking on the riverbank. The boats carry 4 blocks at a time, 4 trips per block, months of transportation. The boats sink sometimes. Stone is heavy. Rivers are unpredictable. 3 boats sink between 1810 and 1815. 12 blocks lost. 3 boat crews drowned. Their families get no compensation, no pension, no recognition. Just sorry, your husband drowned. Next. In Paris, different workers unload the boats. Dock workers, strong men who lift stone all day. They make 2.5 francs a day, about $16 today. They work in teams of 8, use pulleys and ropes and wooden cranes. Lift 3-ton blocks from boats to carts. The carts travel through Paris streets, horse-drawn carts with wooden wheels. The wheels break constantly under the weight. Horses die in harness, die from exhaustion, from pulling too much weight, from being whipped when they slow down. Paris in 1810 has 550,000 people. The carts block traffic, make streets impassable. Angry shopkeepers complain. Angry citizens complain, but Napoleon doesn't care. His monument matters more than convenience. At the construction site, 50 workers lift blocks into place. They use wooden scaffolding, temporary structures built around the growing arch. The scaffolding sways in wind, workers fall. Some break bones, some die. The foreman's log from 1812 records: worker fell Tuesday, died Thursday, replaced Friday. No name, no age, no hometown, just worker. This is the dark story of building. The dark story of who creates monuments. The dark story of whose labor matters and whose doesn't. By 1815, Napoleon loses his final battle at Waterloo, gets exiled to St. Helena Island, dies there in 1821, never sees his arch completed, but the workers keep building, keep carving, keep dying, because monuments outlast the men who order them. The dark story of maintaining glory. The Arc de Triomphe doesn't maintain itself. Even stone needs care, needs cleaning, needs repair, needs workers. By 1836, when the monument finally opens, Paris hires a permanent crew. 5 men, their job: keep the arch clean, keep it maintained, keep it looking glorious. They work year-round, 7 days a week, for 100 francs a month each, about $640 today. Barely enough to survive in Paris. Definitely not enough to save money or support a family comfortably. The crew leader is Pierre Moreau. He's 33 years old when he starts in 1836. He'll work at the Arc de Triomphe for the next 41 years, until 1877, until he's too old to climb scaffolding, until his hands shake too much to hold tools. Pierre's job is washing. The monument gets dirty. Bird droppings, rain stains, soot from coal fires, smoke from factories. Paris is an industrial city by 1840. The air is dirty. The stone absorbs everything. Every 3 months, Pierre and his crew set up scaffolding. Climb to the top, scrub stone with brushes and water. It takes 2 weeks to clean the whole monument. 2 weeks of hanging off scaffolding 50 feet above the street. 2 weeks of breathing chemical cleaners. 2 weeks of rain and wind and danger. Pierre falls once, in 1852. Falls 20 feet, breaks his left arm and 3 ribs. The city pays his doctor bill, 35 francs, about $225 today. Gives him 2 weeks off. No pay, just get better, come back, work. He comes back because he needs the job, because workers in 1850s Paris don't get workers' compensation, don't get disability insurance, don't get anything except work or starve. His crew changes constantly. Young men start, work a year or 2, move on to better jobs, or die. 3 of Pierre's assistants die between 1836 and 1877. 1 falls from scaffolding. 1 gets tuberculosis from breathing stone dust and chemicals. 1 gets hit by a falling tool. None of them get memorials. None of them get their names carved anywhere. They just disappear from the records. Replaced by new workers, new names in the payroll book. The Arc de Triomphe also needs guards, because tourists vandalize things, always have, always will. In 1836, Paris hires 2 guards. They work 12-hour shifts. 1 during the day, 1 at night. They make 80 francs a month, about $510 today. Jean-Baptiste Leclerc works the night shift from 1840 to 1868, 28 years of nights. 28 years of walking around the monument in darkness, checking for vandals, stopping drunks from urinating on the stone, preventing couples from carving their initials. He sleeps during the day in a tiny room under the arch. A storage room converted to living quarters, 8 feet by 10 feet. No windows, 1 bed, 1 chair, 1 lamp. This is his home for 28 years. He dies in 1868, at age 64, still working. Still sleeping in that room. He collapses during his shift. Heart attack. They find him at dawn, lying under the arch he protected for 3 decades. His widow gets nothing. No pension, no compensation, no recognition, just, "We're sorry, please vacate the room. We need it for the new guard." The monument also requires constant stone repair. Limestone erodes. Water freezes in cracks during winter. The ice expands. Cracks widen. Pieces fall off. Every 5 years, stonemasons inspect the entire structure. They mark damaged areas, replace broken blocks, fill cracks with mortar. The city budgets 5,000 francs per year for repairs, about $32,000 today. The masons make 6 francs a day, about $38 today. Good money for skilled workers, but the work is dangerous. They chisel stone 50 feet up. They lean out from scaffolding. They work in all weather. 3 masons die working on the Arc de Triomphe between 1836 and 1900. Falls, all falls. Their families get 200 francs each, about $1,300 today. That's it. That's what a life costs when you maintain monuments. Meanwhile, important people visit. Politicians, foreign dignitaries, rich tourists, they walk under the arch. They admire the carvings. They read the 660 names of generals. They take in the glory. They don't see Pierre Moreau scrubbing stone. Don't see Jean-Baptiste Leclerc walking his night rounds. Don't see the masons risking their lives to fix cracks. Don't see the machine that keeps glory running. Because monuments need workers, need maintenance, need constant care. But the workers stay invisible. The maintenance stays hidden. The care stays unmentioned. Just glory, just generals, just stone. By 1900, the Arc de Triomphe is 64 years old. The original maintenance crew is all dead, replaced by new workers, who will also die, who will also be replaced, who will also stay nameless. The monument lasts, the workers don't. This is the dark story of maintenance, the dark story of who keeps glory alive, the dark story of the invisible machine that makes monuments work. The Arc de Triomphe doesn't stand by itself, doesn't clean itself, doesn't repair itself. It stands because workers make it stand. It shines because workers make it shine. It lasts because workers give their lives, sometimes literally, to keeping it perfect. But walk up to the Arc de Triomphe today. Look at the stone. Look at the carvings. Look at the 660 names. You won't see Pierre Moreau. Won't see Jean-Baptiste Leclerc. Won't see the dozens of workers who fell from scaffolding or died from breathing stone dust or collapsed from exhaustion. You'll just see generals, just commanders. Just the people who gave orders while other people did the actual work. That's how monuments work. That's how glory works. That's how history works. The work is invisible. The workers are forgotten. The glory belongs to someone else. The dark story of whose triumph, July 29, 1836. The Arc de Triomphe finally opens, 30 years after Napoleon ordered it. 15 years after Napoleon died, the arch is finished. King Louis-Philippe organizes the dedication ceremony. He's King of France now. The Bourbon monarchy is back. Napoleon's empire is history, but the arch remains. The ceremony starts at noon. 10,000 people crowd the place to El Idol. Military bands play, cavalry units parade, generals wear full uniforms, medals shine in the sun. Louis-Philippe gives a speech. He talks about French glory, French courage, French greatness. He doesn't mention Napoleon much, doesn't mention the empire, doesn't mention the wars that killed 600,000 French soldiers. He talks about the generals, the commanders. The 660 names carved in stone. He says they represent France's finest, France's bravest, France's best. The crowd cheers. Nobody mentions the workers who built it, the miners who dug the foundation, the sculptors who carved the reliefs, the men who died during construction. Nobody mentions the regular soldiers, the teenagers who marched through Europe, the farmers and shopkeepers and laborers who died at Austerlitz and Jena and Friedland and Borodino and Leipzig and Waterloo. Just generals, just glory, just France. After the speeches, cavalry units parade through the arch. First the Imperial Guard cavalry, the elite units, then regular cavalry, then infantry. 20,000 soldiers march through. It takes 3 hours. The soldiers march in perfect lines. Their boots hit the pavement in rhythm. Drum beats echo under the arch. It sounds like thunder, like power, like empire. The crowd loves it. This is what the Arc de Triomphe was built for. This moment, this display, this proof that France matters, that France conquers, that France wins. But here's what the crowd doesn't know. Here's what the ceremony hides. Half the soldiers marching through are conscripts, drafted, forced to serve. They don't march because they want to, they march because they have to. They make 15 francs a month, about $95 today. $95 to risk death, to follow orders, to make generals famous. The Arc de Triomphe becomes Paris's favorite spot for parades. Every major event includes a march through the arch, every military victory, every returned army, every celebration. 1840, Napoleon's body returns from St. Helena. His coffin travels through Paris, passes under the Arc de Triomphe. 500,000 people line the streets. They cry, they wave flags. They remember the emperor. The coffin is massive, made of 6 layers: tin, mahogany, lead, more mahogany, ebony, oak. It weighs 700 pounds. 20 soldiers carry it. Their backs bend under the weight. Their feet drag. They're carrying glory. Carrying empire. Carrying one man's body while thousands of regular soldiers stay buried in mass graves across Europe. 1871, the Paris Commune happens. Workers rebel, take over Paris, declare a new government. The Arc de Triomphe becomes a symbol. Both sides claim it. Both sides march through it. Both sides say it represents France. The communards, the rebels, march through on May 21. They carry red flags. They sing revolutionary songs. They say the arch belongs to the people, not to generals, not to emperors, to everyone. 3 days later, government soldiers retake Paris. They execute 20,000 communards, line them up against walls and shoot them. The bodies pile up in cemeteries, mass graves, no names, no markers, just traitor, dead, forgotten. Government soldiers march through the Arc de Triomphe on May 28. They carry the French tricolor. They sing the national anthem. They say the arch is saved, returned to proper France, proper order, proper glory. But here's the dark story. Both sides marching through that arch are regular people, workers, shopkeepers, craftsmen. The kinds of people whose names never got carved in stone. The kinds of people who built the arch but don't get remembered by it. They're fighting each other, killing each other, dying for different ideas of what France should be. And they're doing it under a monument that celebrates the generals who commanded earlier versions of the same story. The Arc de Triomphe doesn't care who marches through, doesn't care about politics, doesn't care about who's right. It just stands there, big, stone, permanent, covered with 660 names of generals. 1885, Victor Hugo dies, France's greatest writer, the man who wrote Les Miserables. The man who spent 50 years documenting the lives of regular people, poor people, invisible people. 2 million people attend his funeral. His body lies in state under the Arc de Triomphe for one night. The only civilian ever given this honor, the only non-military person allowed to claim the space. Workers hang black curtains over the generals' names, cover them completely. For one night, the Arc de Triomphe isn't about military glory. It's about a man who wrote about the people the military forgot. Then the funeral ends, the curtains come down, the names come back. The arch returns to being what it always was, a monument to hierarchy, to command, to the people at the top. This is the dark story of glory days, the dark story of who gets to claim the monument. The dark story of how the same arch means different things to different people, but always remembers the same 660 names. Empires rise and fall. Kings come and go. Governments change. Wars happen. Rebellions start and end, but the Arc de Triomphe stays the same. Always big, always stone, always carved with generals, and always silent about everyone else. The dark story of whose names still matter by 1900, the Arc de Triomphe is 64 years old. The stone is weathering. Cracks appear, small ones at first. Hairline fractures in the limestone. Water gets in. Freezes during winter. The cracks grow. Engineers inspect the monument in 1902. They find problems, serious problems. The foundation is settling, not evenly. The south side is sinking 1 inch lower than the north side. 1 inch doesn't sound like much, but in architecture, 1 inch means cracks, means stress, means the whole structure is twisting. The chief engineer writes a report. The monument needs major repairs, he says. Needs reinforcement, needs 500,000 francs, about $3.2 million today to fix properly. The government says no, too expensive. Fix only what's absolutely necessary. Make it last a few more years. We'll deal with it later, so they patch cracks, fill them with mortar, paint over the repairs, make the monument look fine from the outside, but the structural problems remain, hidden, ignored, postponed. This is when the Arc de Triomphe starts feeling outdated, not just physically cracking, but culturally, symbolically. The whole idea of it starts to feel wrong, because the world is changing. The 20th century is different from the 19th. Different wars, different weapons, different ways of dying. Napoleon's wars were about cavalry charges and battlefield victories and generals commanding from hills. World War I, starting in 1914, is about trenches and machine guns and poison gas and regular soldiers dying by the thousands. France loses 1.4 million soldiers in World War I. Most are young men, conscripts, farmers and shopkeepers and students forced into uniform. They die in mud, they die from gas. They die from artillery shells they never see coming. They die alone or in groups of 50 when one shell hits a trench. Their generals stay far from the fighting, stay in headquarters, stay safe. Give orders that send young men into machine gun fire, orders that kill hundreds of thousands. And when the war ends in 1918, France faces a question. How do we remember this? How do we honor 1.4 million dead soldiers? The generals want parades, want victory celebrations, want to march through the Arc de Triomphe like always, want glory and triumph and proof that France won. But the families of dead soldiers want something else. They want their sons remembered, want their names somewhere, want proof that the sacrifices mattered. And this is when the Arc de Triomphe becomes a problem. Because it has no room for 1.4 million names. It only has room for generals. It only remembers commanders. Families start asking questions, start noticing, start saying, wait. Why are only generals' names on the monument? Why not our sons? Why not the men who actually fought and died? Good questions, uncomfortable questions, the kind of questions that make monuments feel wrong. The government tries to ignore it, tries to have traditional victory parades, tries to celebrate like France celebrated every other war, but it doesn't work. Not this time. Not after trenches and gas attacks and 1.4 million bodies. On July 14, 1919, Bastille Day, France's national celebration, the government organizes a victory parade. The parade will march through the Arc de Triomphe, will celebrate beating Germany, will show French glory, but the families of dead soldiers protest. They gather at the arch. They bring photos of their sons. They make signs. They say, "Our children died for France. Where are their names?" The parade happens anyway. Generals march through. Cavalry units march through. The government declares victory, but the protests don't stop. They grow. More families, more questions. More people asking why a war memorial only remembers the people who gave orders, not the people who died following them. This is the dark story of cracks appearing, not just in the stone, in the idea, in what the monument represents. A politician named Léon Bérard makes a proposal in November 1919. He says, we should bury an unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe. One body, no name. Representing all the dead, the idea is controversial. Some generals hate it. Some politicians think it's disrespectful to put a regular soldier at a monument meant for commanders. Some traditionalists think it ruins the arch's meaning, but public pressure builds. Families demand it. Newspapers support it. Veterans support it. The people who actually fought the war say, yes, this is right. This is what we need. The government debates for a year, finally votes yes on November 12, 1920. France will bury an unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe, will light an eternal flame over his grave. We'll finally remember someone besides generals. But here's the dark story within the dark story. One unknown soldier, one body, one nameless grave. That's the solution to forgetting 1.4 million men. One. Out of 1.4 million, that's 705%. That's barely symbolic. That's a tiny gesture compared to the problem. And the 660 generals' names stay, don't get removed, don't get replaced. Don't make room for regular soldiers. They just stay, still carved in stone, still visible, still there. So the Arc de Triomphe adds one unknown soldier to 660 generals. Adds one tiny correction to a massive problem. Adds one nameless grave to a monument built for named commanders. Better than nothing. Yes. Good enough? No. Enough to fix what's broken? Definitely not. The cracks in the Arc de Triomphe aren't just structural. They're moral. They're about who matters, who counts, who deserves remembering. And in 1920, France partially admits that maybe, just maybe, regular soldiers matter too. Maybe they deserve one spot, one grave, one flame, but only one, only nameless, only unknown. The 660 generals keep their names, keep their stone immortality, keep their glory. That's the compromise. That's the solution. That's how France handles the question of whose sacrifice counts. One unknown soldier under 660 named generals. That's the ratio. That's the answer. That's what France thinks is fair. The dark story of choosing 1 November 1920. France needs to choose an unknown soldier. One body, one dead man to represent 1.4 million. How do you choose? Who decides? What makes one body more representative than another? The government creates a process, a ceremony, a whole system for selecting which nameless corpse becomes the symbolic soldier. First, they collect 8 bodies. 8 unidentified French soldiers from 8 different battlefields. From Verdun, where 300,000 French soldiers died. From the Somme, where 200,000 died. From Champagne, Artois, Lorraine, Flanders, Picardy, and Marseille. 8 bodies, 8 coffins, 8 corpses so damaged, so destroyed that nobody can identify them. No dog tags, no papers, no distinguishing marks. Just bones and uniforms and mud. They bring the coffins to Verdun, to the citadel, a fortress. They arrange the coffins in a room. 8 identical coffins in a row. No marks, no numbers. No way to know which body came from which battlefield. The date is November 10, 1920. The ceremony happens at 3 p.m. A young soldier named Auguste Thin enters the room. He's 21 years old, fought at Verdun. Wounded twice, lost his entire unit. He's the son of a dead soldier. His father died at Douaumont in 1916. Auguste carries a bouquet of flowers, white and red carnations, French colors. He walks past the 8 coffins. The officials tell him, place the flowers on one coffin, whichever one you choose. That's the unknown soldier. That's who gets buried under the Arc de Triomphe. Auguste walks slowly, looks at each coffin. They all look the same, wood, simple, identical. How do you choose? How do you decide which dead man gets remembered when they all deserve it? He places the flowers on the 6th coffin. No particular reason. It just feels right. That's the one. Except here's the dark story. Here's what makes this ceremony brutal. The other 7 bodies get reburied, returned to military cemeteries, put back in the ground, unknown, unnamed, not chosen. They were good enough to be candidates, good enough to maybe represent France, but not good enough to actually get picked. So back to mass graves they go, back to anonymity, back to being forgotten. Only one gets remembered, 1 out of 8 candidates, 1 out of 1.4 million dead soldiers. The chosen coffin travels to Paris by train, arrives on November 11, 1920, exactly 2 years after the war ended. The coffin sits at the Arc de Triomphe for 3 days, lying in state. 500,000 people file past. They cry, they salute, they bring flowers. The families of dead soldiers come, they look at the coffin. They wonder, is that my son? Could that be my husband? Might that be my brother? They'll never know, that's the point. The unknown soldier could be anyone, could be the farmer from Normandy or the teacher from Lyon or the shopkeeper from Marseille, could be anyone's son, anyone's brother, anyone's father. That's supposed to make it powerful, supposed to make it universal, supposed to make everyone feel included. But here's what it really means. It means 1.4 million families will never know where their sons are buried, will never have a grave to visit, will never have a name on a stone, will never have proof that their sacrifice mattered. One unknown soldier gets the Arc de Triomphe. Everyone else gets nothing. November 14, 1920, the burial ceremony. The coffin gets lowered into a vault under the arch, right in the center, right where armies march through, right where Napoleon wanted his victory parades. The vault is simple, stone, no decorations. Just a flat stone covering a hole in the ground. Later, in 1923, they'll add the eternal flame. But for now, it's just stone, just a grave. Military bands play. Generals give speeches. They talk about sacrifice, about honor, about France. They talk about the unknown soldier representing all French soldiers. But they don't mention the irony. Don't mention that they're burying him under a monument covered with generals' names. Don't mention that 660 commanders' names are carved in stone above while he stays nameless below. They don't mention that generals ordered the attacks that killed him. Don't mention that generals sent millions of men into machine gun fire. Don't mention that generals stayed safe in headquarters while regular soldiers died. They just talk about honor, about glory, about sacrifice. The ceremony ends, the crowd disperses. The unknown soldier lies under the Arc de Triomphe, alone, nameless, dead. Above him, 660 generals' names stay carved in stone, named, remembered, immortal. This is the dark story of the crisis, the dark story of how France responded to mass death, the dark story of how one nameless grave became the solution to 1.4 million forgotten soldiers. One body, one unknown soldier. One tiny gesture. Is it better than nothing? Yes. Does it acknowledge that regular soldiers deserve remembering? Yes. Does it fix the fundamental problem of the Arc de Triomphe being a monument to military hierarchy? No. Because the 660 generals keep their names, keep their stone, keep their glory. They don't make room for regular soldiers, don't get replaced, don't share the monument. They just allow one unknown soldier to join them. One nameless corpse under 660 named commanders. That's the compromise. That's the solution. That's what France thinks counts as remembering the sacrifice of 1.4 million dead soldiers. One grave, one flame, one body, and 660 generals still carved in stone above. The dark story of adding fire. January 28, 1923, 3 years after the unknown soldier's burial. The eternal flame gets lit for the first time. The ceremony happens at sunset, 6 p.m., winter, cold, dark, perfect for fire, perfect for symbolism. André Maginot lights the flame. He's a government minister of war. Also a World War I veteran. Lost his leg at Verdun. Walks with a cane. He understands sacrifice. He carries a torch. Walks slowly up to the grave. The stone covering the vault has been modified. A bronze flame holder has been installed, shaped like a torch. Sitting right in the center of the grave, Maginot kneels, touches his torch to the bronze. Fire catches, grows, becomes a flame. The crowd watches in silence. 10,000 people surrounding the arch, not cheering, not clapping, just watching, just witnessing. The flame burns, will keep burning, forever. That's the promise, that's the symbol. An eternal flame for eternal sacrifice. But here's the dark story. Eternal flames need maintenance, need fuel, need someone to keep them lit. The flame burns gas, natural gas piped up from below. The pipe runs from underground Paris gas lines to the bronze holder. The gas flows constantly, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, but flames go out. Wind blows them out. Rain blows them out. Sometimes the gas flow stutters. Sometimes accidents happen. So Paris hires someone to relight it, every evening, every single evening at 6:30 p.m. since 1923. A ceremony, a ritual, a reminder. At first, it's military veterans, soldiers who served in World War I. They take turns, one veteran every evening, walks up to the grave, carries a torch, relights the flame if it's out. tends it if it's burning, salutes, leaves. The veterans do this for free. No pay. It's an honor, they say, a duty. A way to remember their dead friends. But here's what nobody mentions. The veterans are poor. Most veterans in 1920s France are poor. The government gave them medals, not pensions. Gave them honor, not money. Gave them ceremonies, not jobs, so they relight the flame every evening, unpaid, while struggling to survive, while looking for work, while trying to feed families. Is that fair? Is that right? Asking poor veterans to maintain a symbol of sacrifice while not actually helping them. But nobody asks those questions in 1923. Nobody asks them in 1930. Nobody asks them for decades. The flame becomes famous, becomes one of Paris's most important symbols. Tourists visit, take photos, stand quietly, feel moved. But the flame also becomes a problem during World War II, June 1940. Germany invades France. German soldiers march through Paris, march through the Arc de Triomphe, march right over the unknown soldier's grave. The French government debates, should we extinguish the flame? Should we hide it, protect it somehow? They decide to keep it burning, decide that extinguishing it would be surrender, would be admitting defeat, would be betraying the dead. So the flame keeps burning through the German occupation, through 4 years of Nazi control. Through collaboration and resistance and horror, French veterans keep relighting it, keep tending it, even with German soldiers watching, even with the risk of being seen as defiant, even with the danger. German soldiers sometimes mock them, sometimes threaten them, sometimes make them wait until German parades finish before letting them approach the grave. But the veterans keep coming, keep relighting the flame, keep the ritual going. August 1944. Paris is liberated. Allied soldiers march through the Arc de Triomphe. French soldiers, American soldiers, British soldiers, they march over the grave, over the flame, celebrating victory. The flame still burns. By 1950, the original World War I veterans are getting old, dying, fewer veterans available to relight the flame each evening. So France expands the program, allows World War II veterans to participate. Then later, veterans from other wars, Algeria, Indochina, any French military veteran can take a turn relighting the flame. Then in 1993, France expands it again, allows civilian groups to participate, firefighters, police, students, youth organizations, anybody who wants to honor the unknown soldier. Now every single evening at 6:30 p.m., a different group shows up. They bring their own torch. They relight the flame if necessary. They salute. They sign a book. They maintain the ritual. This ceremony has happened every single day since 1923, every day for more than 100 years, through wars, through occupations, through protests and riots and celebrations, through every kind of weather, every evening, 6:30 p.m. The eternal flame is maintained by regular people, volunteers, veterans and civilians and students, people whose names don't go on monuments, people who keep symbols alive without getting recognition, just like the workers who built the Arc de Triomphe, just like the maintenance crews who clean it, just like the guards who protect it, just like the soldiers who died for it. Regular people maintaining glory, regular people keeping symbols alive, regular people doing the actual work while monuments remember someone else. This is the dark story of transformation, the dark story of how the Arc de Triomphe changed from a monument to generals into something more complicated, something that includes, barely, symbolically, inadequately, regular soldiers. One flame, one unknown soldier, one evening ceremony maintained by regular people. Under 660 generals' names still carved in stone. The transformation is incomplete. The monument is compromised. The symbol is mixed, but at least there's fire. At least there's one nameless grave. At least there's something acknowledging that regular soldiers exist. It's not enough, not nearly enough, but it's more than Napoleon intended. More than 1836 provided, more than the original monument allowed. One flame under 660 names. That's the transformation. That's the change. That's how far we've come. The dark story of what we still see walk up to the Arc de Triomphe today. Right now, in 2026, you'll see crowds, tourists from everywhere. China, Brazil, United States, Germany, Japan standing in groups, taking photos. Smiling, posing, making peace signs and duck faces, and whatever poses are popular this year. You'll see street vendors selling miniature Eiffel Towers and Arc de Triomphe keychains and postcards. They charge €5 for a keychain. About $5.50, mass-produced in China, sold by immigrants from Senegal and Bangladesh who work 12-hour days standing on Paris sidewalks. The vendors don't have permits, can't get permits, but they sell anyway. Because they need money, because they have families, because standing on a sidewalk selling keychains is better than nothing. Police chase them away sometimes. The vendors run, come back an hour later, run again, come back again. This cycle repeats every day, every hour, forever. This happens 20 feet from the Arc de Triomphe, 20 feet from the monument to French glory, 20 feet from 660 generals' names, 20 feet from the eternal flame for the unknown soldier. The irony is thick, thick enough to cut. Climb to the top of the monument. You can do this. There's a ticket booth, €13 to climb, about $14. You walk up 284 steps, spiral staircase, narrow, crowded, tourists breathing heavy, taking breaks, complaining. From the top you see Paris, the whole city. 12 roads radiating out from the arch like spokes on a wheel. The Eiffel Tower in the distance, the Louvre, Sacré-Cœur, everything. It's beautiful, genuinely beautiful. Paris is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. The architecture is stunning, the layout is brilliant, the monuments are impressive, but look down. Look at the traffic circle around the Arc de Triomphe. Cars circling, 12 lanes of chaos, no rules, no lane markers. Just cars entering and exiting and somehow not crashing constantly, although they do crash. The traffic circle around the Arc de Triomphe has more accidents per year than almost any intersection in Paris. Insurance companies won't cover accidents there. Too common, too expected. So drivers circle the Arc de Triomphe, circle the monument to French glory and crash into each other, daily, while tourists take photos. More irony. Look at the names carved in stone. The 660 generals. You can see them from the ground, from the top, from anywhere. They're carved deep, permanent, lasting. Who are these generals? Can you name 5? Can you name 10? Can you tell me what battles they fought, what orders they gave, what strategies they used? Most tourists can't. Most French people can't. The names are carved in stone but forgotten by memory. They're permanent but meaningless. They're there but invisible, except to historians, except to the few people who study Napoleonic Wars, except to specialists. To everyone else, the names are just names, stone, decoration. But look at the eternal flame. Look at the unknown soldier's grave. That's what tourists actually care about. That's what people photograph. That's what feels meaningful. Every evening at 6:30 p.m., the flame ceremony happens. Different groups every night, veterans. Students, police, firefighters, they approach the grave. They relight the flame if necessary. They salute. They stand in silence. Tourists watch. Tourists take videos. Tourists post to Instagram and TikTok and whatever social media platforms exist in 2026. The eternal flame gets more attention than the 660 generals. The one unknown soldier matters more than the 660 named commanders. The regular soldier, even nameless, connects with people more than the famous generals. Because people understand sacrifice. People understand dying for your country. People understand being forgotten. People understand being invisible. But people don't understand glory, don't understand commanding armies, don't understand being the person whose name gets carved in stone. So they connect with the flame, with the unknown soldier, with the idea that regular people matter even when history forgets them. But here's the dark story that even this doesn't fix. Even the unknown soldier is just one person, one body, one grave, one flame. 1.4 million French soldiers died in World War I. 600,000 died in the Napoleonic Wars, millions more in other conflicts, millions of regular people, millions of teenagers and farmers and shopkeepers and workers. One unknown soldier represents them all, one flame. One grave, one nameless corpse. Is that enough? Does that actually acknowledge the scale of sacrifice? Does one symbolic gesture fix the problem of a monument built for 660 generals? No, obviously not. One is not enough, one is barely anything. One is a gesture, not a solution. But it's what we have, it's what exists. It's the compromise between the monument's original purpose and what people actually need from memorials. The Arc de Triomphe in 2026 is a confused monument, part victory arch, part memorial, part tourist attraction, part traffic circle, part symbol of French pride, part reminder of military hierarchy, part acknowledgement that regular soldiers matter too. It tries to be everything, succeeds at being something, not sure what, something complicated, something mixed, something that both celebrates glory and questions it. Tourists don't notice this. They take their photos, buy their keychains, climb the stairs, look at the view, post to social media, move on to the next attraction. But the Arc de Triomphe stays, still big, still stone, still covered with 660 names, still burning one eternal flame, still standing at the center of Paris, still meaning different things to different people, still asking the question Napoleon never wanted asked. Who deserves to be remembered? Whose names matter? Whose glory counts? The monument doesn't answer, just stands there, big in stone and permanent and confused. 660 generals above, one unknown soldier below. That's the answer we've settled on. That's what 220 years of history produced. Is it fair? Is it right? Is it enough? Walk up to the arch. Look at the names. Look at the flame. Decide for yourself. Because monuments don't answer questions. They just make us ask them. The dark story we've been ignoring. Let's be clear about something. We've talked about workers, mentioned them, described their jobs. But we haven't really told their story, haven't given them the space they deserve, haven't made them the main characters. Because that's the problem with monuments like the Arc de Triomphe. Workers are always side characters. Always background, always mentioned but never centered. So let's fix that. Let's tell the workers' story properly. Let's make them visible. Start with Jacques Moreau, not related to Pierre Moreau from the maintenance crew, different family. Different generation. Jacques is a stone carver, age 28 in 1810, married, 2 children, 1 more on the way. Jacques comes from Burgundy. His father was a stone carver. His grandfather was a stone carver. The trade runs in families. You learn by watching, by practicing, by ruining stone until you figure out how not to ruin stone. Jacques gets hired in 1810 to work on the Arc de Triomphe. He makes 5 francs a day, about $32 today. He works 6 days a week, Sundays off. That's 30 francs a week, 120 francs a month, about $770 today. Rent for his family's apartment costs 60 francs a month. Food costs 40 francs, clothes cost 10 francs. Medicine when the kids get sick costs 5 francs. That leaves 5 francs for everything else, for emergencies, for savings, for unexpected problems. There's no safety net. No insurance, no savings account, no pension, no disability coverage. If Jacques gets hurt, he stops working. If he stops working, his family starves. Simple as that. He works on the north face of the monument. Carves decorative details, laurel wreaths, military symbols, tiny details that most people never notice but that take hours to create. He climbs scaffolding every morning, wooden scaffolding that sways in wind, that creaks under weight. That sometimes collapses. 3 of Jacques' co-workers die from falls. Jean-Baptiste in 1811, Louis in 1813, Francois in 1814. They fall, they hit the ground, they die. Their families get nothing, no compensation. No help, no recognition, just sorry, he's dead, someone else will take his place. Jacques is careful, very careful. He ties himself to the scaffolding with rope, checks every foothold, moves slowly. He has children, he needs to survive. Carefulness keeps him alive. He works on the Arc de Triomphe for 12 years, from 1810 to 1822. 12 years of climbing scaffolding, 12 years of carving stone, 12 years of breathing rock dust that slowly destroys his lungs. By 1822, he's coughing constantly, coughing up blood, can't climb stairs without stopping, can't work full days anymore. The rock dust has given him silicosis, a disease that fills your lungs with scars, makes breathing harder and harder until you can't breathe at all. He dies in 1824, age 42. His lungs finally fail. His wife and 4 children, the 3rd child was a girl born in 1811, get nothing. No pension, no help, no widow's benefits. She finds work as a laundress, makes 1 franc a day, about $6.50 today. Barely enough to survive. The children go to work at age 10. The oldest son becomes a stone carver like his father, breathes the same dust, gets the same disease, dies at age 38. This cycle repeats. Sons follow fathers into dangerous work. Daughters follow mothers into poverty. Families stay poor. Families stay invisible. Families stay forgotten. Meanwhile, the Arc de Triomphe gets finished, gets dedicated, gets celebrated. Generals march through it, tourists admire it, historians write about it, but Jacques Moreau's name appears nowhere. His contribution gets forgotten. His sacrifice goes unmentioned. His death goes unrecorded except in church burial records that nobody reads. He's one worker among hundreds, among thousands if you count everyone who quarried stone, transported stone, lifted stone, carved stone, cleaned stone. Thousands of workers whose names never got carved anywhere. Compare that to General Louis-Nicolas Devout, one of the 660 names on the monument. Devout commanded armies, fought at Austerlitz, became a Marshal of France. Rich, famous, successful, he died in 1823, 1 year before Jacques Moreau. Devout died in a mansion, surrounded by family, with servants and doctors and comfort. He got a state funeral, got buried with honors, got his name carved in stone. Jacques died in a cheap apartment, surrounded by family who couldn't help him, without doctors too expensive, without comfort. He got buried in a common grave, got no funeral, got no recognition. Both men contributed to the Arc de Triomphe. One commanded the battles it celebrates. One carved the stone it's made from. One gets remembered forever. One gets forgotten immediately. Is that fair? Is that right? Is that how we should measure contribution? No, obviously not. But that's how monuments work. That's how glory works. That's how history works. The powerful get remembered. The workers get forgotten. The commanders get names in stone. The carvers get nothing. This is the dark story we keep ignoring. The dark story of who actually builds glory. The dark story of whose hands create monuments. The dark story of whose sacrifice actually matters. Jacques Moreau mattered. His co-workers mattered. The thousands of workers who built the Arc de Triomphe mattered. Their deaths mattered. Their families mattered. Their contributions mattered. But the monument doesn't remember them. History doesn't record them. Glory doesn't include them. Just 660 generals, just commanders, just the people who gave orders while other people did the work and took the risks and breathed the dust and died young. That's the dark story. That's the truth. That's what the Arc de Triomphe really represents. Glory for the powerful, silence for everyone else. The dark story we're still living. Paris, 2026. The Arc de Triomphe is 190 years old, still standing, still big, still covered with 660 names, still burning one eternal flame. But something is changing, not the monument. The monument never changes. What's changing is how people look at it, how people think about it, how people question it, young people especially, teenagers visiting on school trips. College students studying history, they stand under the arch, they look at the names, they ask uncomfortable questions. Why only generals? They say. Where are the regular soldiers? Where are the workers? Where are the women? Where are the people who actually built this? Their teachers try to explain, try to give historical context, try to say, well, that's how things were back then. Different times, different values, but the students aren't satisfied. Because they've seen other monuments, modern monuments, memorials built after World War II, Vietnam memorials, Holocaust memorials, 9/11 memorials. Those memorials list every name, every victim, every person who died, not just commanders, not just the famous, everyone. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. has 58,000 names, every American soldier who died, all carved in black granite. All equal, all remembered. The 9/11 Memorial in New York has 2977 names, every victim, firefighters and office workers and passengers, all around reflecting pools, all honored equally. Those memorials say, everyone matters, everyone counts, everyone deserves remembering. But the Arc de Triomphe says, only commanders matter, only generals count, only the powerful deserve remembering. And in 2026 that feels wrong, feels outdated. Feels like something from a different era that we should have moved past. Social media makes it worse, better, complicated. Students post photos of the Arc de Triomphe with captions like, 660 generals, 0 regular soldiers. Explain that. The posts go viral, get thousands of likes, start conversations. Some people defend the monument, say it's historical. Say we can't judge the past by present standards. Say changing it would erase history. Other people say it's offensive. Say it celebrates inequality. Say it should be modified. Say we should add regular soldiers' names somehow. Both sides have points. Both sides are partially right. The argument continues, gets heated, becomes political, because monuments are always political, always about power, always about who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. The French government faces pressure. Pressure to do something. Pressure to acknowledge the problem. Pressure to make the Arc de Triomphe more inclusive. Some proposals suggested. Add more plaques listing regular soldiers' names, create a database accessible by QR code, build a new memorial nearby, specifically for regular soldiers, modify the existing carvings to include more names, add digital displays showing rotating names of regular soldiers, but every proposal faces problems. The monument is protected, UNESCO World Heritage Site, can't change it easily, can't add modern technology without destroying historical integrity, can't satisfy everyone, so the government does what governments do. Forms a commission, studies the issue, holds meetings, takes years to decide anything. Meanwhile, the Arc de Triomphe keeps standing, keeps showing 660 generals' names, keeps burning one eternal flame, keeps being what it's always been, but public perception shifts. Younger generations see it differently, see it as a relic of inequality, see it as proof that we used to celebrate power instead of sacrifice, used to or still do. Because here's the uncomfortable question. Here's what makes this dark story current. We're still doing this, still building monuments that celebrate the powerful, still forgetting regular people. Still carving the names of CEOs and presidents and commanders while workers stay invisible. Look at corporate headquarters, giant buildings with the founder's name on them. Steve Jobs Theater, Bill Gates Hall. Zuckerberg General Hospital, the rich person's name in huge letters. The workers who built it, nobody knows their names. Look at sports stadiums, named after corporations, after rich people who donated money. FedEx Field. Lucas Oil Stadium, Crypto.com Arena, The construction workers who built them, anonymous, forgotten, invisible. Look at university buildings, named after donors, after trustees, after wealthy alumni. Named after the people who gave money, not the people who did the work. We're still doing it, still in 2026, still celebrating wealth and power, still forgetting labor and sacrifice, still carving the wrong names in stone. The Arc de Triomphe isn't some ancient relic from a barbaric past. It's a mirror. It's showing us what we still do, what we still value, what we still choose to remember. 660 generals, 0 regular soldiers. That's not just 1836. That's not just Napoleon. That's us. That's now. That's how we still measure worth. We put the CEO's name on the building, not the construction workers. We put the donor's name on the hospital wing. Not the nurses. We put the general's name on the monument, not the soldiers. We, us, now. The dark story of the Arc de Triomphe is that it's not really about the past. It's about the present. It's about how we're still doing the same thing. Still celebrating the wrong people. Still forgetting the ones who actually matter. And until we change that, until we actually start remembering workers and regular people, and the invisible millions who build everything, the Arc de Triomphe will keep standing as proof that we haven't learned anything. 190 years, 660 names, one unknown soldier. That's our reckoning. That's our dark story. That's what we need to face. Not just about monuments, about everything, about who we celebrate, who we remember, who we think matters. The Arc de Triomphe is asking us a question, the same question it's been asking since 1836. Are we ready to answer it yet? The dark story that won't end stand under the Arc de Triomphe on any evening. 6:30 p.m., when the eternal flame ceremony happens. Watch the people who come to relight the flame. Sometimes they're veterans, old men in uniform. Medals on their chests, walking slowly, carefully, remembering friends who died. Sometimes they're students, teenagers from local schools, wearing regular clothes, carrying a torch nervously, taking their civic duty seriously. Sometimes they're firefighters, police officers, government workers, regular people doing a ceremonial task, maintaining a symbol, keeping memory alive. They approach the grave. They salute or bow or just stand respectfully. They relight the flame if it's out. They stand in silence for 30 seconds. They sign the book. They leave. This ceremony happens every single evening, has happened every evening since 1923, will happen every evening forever, probably. It's France's most consistent ritual, more consistent than elections, more consistent than holidays, more consistent than anything. The flame never dies, never goes completely out. Because even if wind blows it out, someone will relight it at 6:30 p.m. every day, always. That's the lesson. That's what the Arc de Triomphe teaches us, not the lesson Napoleon intended. Not the lesson about French glory or military victories or empire. The real lesson: memory requires maintenance. Remembering requires work. Honor requires regular people doing small tasks consistently forever. The 660 generals' names don't maintain themselves. Stone erodes, weather damages it, pollution stains it. Workers have to clean the names, have to repair cracks, have to keep the monument looking perfect. The eternal flame doesn't burn by itself. Gas pipes feed it. Systems maintain it. People tend it every evening, every day, forever. Glory isn't automatic. Memory isn't permanent. Monuments don't stand alone. They stand because regular people make them stand, because workers maintain them, because volunteers tend them, because unnamed people do repetitive tasks that nobody notices but everyone needs. Just like the workers who built the monument, just like the soldiers who died in the battles it celebrates, just like the maintenance crews and guards and cleaners and everyone else who stays invisible while glory stays visible. The Arc de Triomphe in 2026 is still about hierarchy, still about power, still about 660 named generals and millions of unnamed everyone else. But it's also about something Napoleon never imagined. It's about how regular people keep glory alive, how unnamed workers maintain named monuments, how the invisible make the visible possible. Look at the eternal flame. Really look at it. It's not burning because of Napoleon, not burning because of generals, not burning because of government decrees or official ceremonies or carved names. It's burning because someone, some regular person, shows up every evening at 6:30 p.m. and makes sure it keeps burning, because volunteers maintain it, because workers tend it, because regular people care about it. The flame is more democratic than the monument, more inclusive than the names, more representative than the original purpose. The flame says, everyone matters, everyone's sacrifice counts, everyone deserves remembering. The names say, only commanders matter, only the powerful count, only generals deserve stone. Both messages exist simultaneously. Both truths live in the same monument. Both stories are real. That's why the Arc de Triomphe matters in 2026. not because it's beautiful, though it is, not because it's historical, though it is, not because it's impressive, though it is. It matters because it's honest, accidentally honest, unintentionally honest, but honest. It shows us exactly how we think about glory, how we measure worth, how we decide who deserves remembering and who deserves forgetting. And it shows us that we've been thinking about this wrong for 190 years, maybe longer, maybe forever, because the people who built the Arc de Triomphe, the miners and carvers and transporters and laborers, they mattered more than the generals. They created something that lasted. They made something beautiful. They contributed something permanent. The generals just gave orders, just commanded, just rode horses while other people walked. But the generals got their names carved in stone, got remembered, got glory. The workers got nothing, got forgotten, got silence. That's the dark story. That's the truth. That's what the Arc de Triomphe really represents. And here's the question for you, the question for everyone reading this, the question for 2026 and beyond. Are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to keep building monuments that celebrate the powerful and forget the workers? Are we going to keep carving the names of CEOs and presidents and commanders, while the people who actually build things stay invisible? Are we going to keep measuring worth by position instead of contribution? Are we going to keep letting glory flow upward while sacrifice flows downward? Or are we going to change? Are we going to build new kinds of monuments? Monuments that list every worker's name. Monuments that celebrate contribution instead of position. Monuments that acknowledge everyone who helped instead of just the people who commanded. Are we going to look at the Arc de Triomphe and say, never again? Never again will we build something that forgets the people who built it. Never again will we celebrate only the commanders. Never again will we carve only the powerful names in stone. That's the choice. That's the decision. That's what the Arc de Triomphe is asking us to make, because monuments are choices. Choices about who matters. Choices about whose story we tell. Choices about what we want future generations to remember. The Arc de Triomphe made a choice. 660 generals, 0 regular soldiers. That was the choice in 1836. We partially corrected it in 1920. Added 1 unknown soldier, 1 eternal flame. 1 tiny gesture toward including regular people. But 1 isn't enough. 1 out of millions isn't representation. 1 nameless grave doesn't fix 660 named commanders. So what do we do now? What do we do in 2026? What do we do going forward? We can't change the Arc de Triomphe. It's historical, protected, permanent. The 660 names stay carved in stone. But we can change ourselves, change how we think, change what we build next, change who we celebrate, change whose names we carve. We can build new monuments, better monuments, monuments that remember everyone, monuments that celebrate workers, monuments that acknowledge the invisible people who make everything possible. We can demand that buildings list construction workers' names, not just architects. We can insist that stadiums acknowledge everyone who built them, not just donors. We can require that memorials include everyone who contributed, not just commanders. We can change the present. We can't change the past. The Arc de Triomphe is the past. It's stone. It's permanent. It's done. But the future is unwritten. The monuments we build tomorrow aren't carved yet. The names we choose to remember haven't been chosen yet. The glory we decide to celebrate hasn't been decided yet. That's our power. That's our choice. That's our responsibility. Stand under the Arc de Triomphe one more time. Look up at those 660 names. Look down at that 1 eternal flame. Ask yourself, what will my generation build? What will we celebrate? Whose names will we carve in stone? Will we keep doing what Napoleon did? Keep celebrating the powerful? Keep forgetting everyone else? Or will we do something different, something better, something more inclusive and more honest and more true? The Arc de Triomphe is teaching us a lesson, not the lesson it meant to teach. Not the lesson about French glory and military victories. The real lesson, the people at the top get remembered. The people at the bottom get forgotten. That's how monuments work. That's how history works. That's how glory works. Unless we change it, unless we decide that everyone matters, everyone counts, everyone deserves remembering, unless we decide that the worker who carved the stone is just as important as the general who commanded the army, that the teenager who died in mud is just as valuable as the officer who rode a horse, that the nameless millions matter just as much as the named few. That's the choice. That's the dark story. That's what the Arc de Triomphe is really about. 660 generals, 0 regular soldiers, 1 unknown soldier added later as a compromise. Is that good enough? Is that fair? Is that right? You decide. We all decide, together. Now, what monuments will we build? Whose names will we remember? Whose glory will we celebrate? The Arc de Triomphe asked the question in 1836. We still haven't answered it properly, still haven't learned the lesson, still haven't changed our ways, but we could. Starting now, starting today, starting with the next monument we build, the next name we carve, the next story we tell, we could remember everyone. We could celebrate contribution instead of position. We could build monuments that honor the people who actually build them. We could, if we wanted to, if we chose to, if we cared enough. That's the dark story of the Arc de Triomphe. That's the lesson. That's the truth. Are we listening? Visit the Arc de Triomphe if you can. Stand under it. Look at the names. Look at the flame. Ask the questions. If you can't visit, look at monuments near you. Look at buildings with names on them. Look at who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. Then ask, is this right? Is this fair? Is this what we want? And if the answer is no, if you think we can do better, then do better. Build better. Remember better. Celebrate better. The workers deserve it. The regular soldiers deserve it. The invisible millions deserve it. They built everything. They died for everything. They made everything possible. The least we can do is remember their names.